And welcome back to another episode of the Double Doink Podcast. My name is Brendan D. Thanks so much for tuning in today. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit the like button and hit that subscribe button. And if you're listening on an audio podcast, please like and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. We're talking strictly Philadelphia Eagles today. I'm looking forward to this one. I missed them. My good friend, Thomas Petersen, is back on the Double Doink Podcast. Thomas, how we doing?
We're doing great now. Game week. We're back on the pod. Feels like there's a little bit of back to normal again.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, have you ever been to a Sao Paulo, Brazil, or have you ever been to Brazil before?
No, never.
No, never?
No.
Ever done South America at all?
Never done South America. Never been to Africa. I think I've only been to U.S., Europe, and Asia.
Okay. Yeah, Brazil. I've never been to South America either. There was actually a report from ESPN that just dropped that they've heightened security there and they've got everything settled. It's been a popular topic of conversation in the news desk.
Yeah, I saw that. I mean, I guess people don't understand how London is how things are going in London in general. Like when they started doing the London games, you didn't hear anything like what you're hearing about Brazil now. But I mean, I think it's, if you ask an average Englishman, I think that they'd say it's pretty dangerous walking around certain places of London as well. There's definitely more heightened security there as well, and I don't know, it just got this weird twist about suddenly now it's in Brazil.
Darius Slay came out on his podcast saying he's not excited to go there. AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, they've been very vocal about it. So
bunch of drama queens.
Yeah, I was more. I could be completely wrong on this. My biggest concern with it was the field. They're a soccer. Of course, Brazil's one of the biggest soccer town or soccer cities or country, in the world. I'm assuming they've got good natural grass there, but I don't know. And that was kind of where my concern of having the game in Brazil was, more than kind of the security aspect around it.
Yeah, I think for me it was just basically just the travel time for the players. It's such a long plane ride. But other than that, I don't really get I don't get the fuss. They walk in a plane, they go to a hotel, they play a game, they go back on a plane. Mm-hmm. So I think it's taking a weird turn. I don't see the problem with it at all, other than the fact that, you're playing, I don't know, is this this counts as an away game for the Eagles, correct?
I believe it's a home game.
It is a home game. Okay.
Yeah,
so I think that's basically what I'm thinking about, because I mean, soccer is a big thing in Brazil as well. So I think they know their shit when it comes to fields. I mean, we've seen our fair share of shit fields in the NFL, and they do this all the time. So yeah, I guess
and the Super Bowl, Thomas.
Exactly. Yeah, going right back to that. I mean, not to dig deep there. We all know what happened, but I think a lot of the concerns are a little bit overblown.
Keep the sod father away from Brazil. I will see sod father in hell, as I always say. I absolutely hate that guy. Anyways, so we haven't podcasted during training camp, any of the preseason. So I wanted to start this with kind of just any underlying takes that you had on the roster, any preseason action, just kind of anything that's been on your mind before we dive into Eagles versus Packers.
Yeah, so excited for the youth movement on defense, while also having a little bit of anxiety about how it's going to go the first part of the season. There's so many new players that need to step up and have a big role, with Fletcher Cox retirement, obviously, and we have a brand new pair of linebacker like we always do. Quinton Mitchell, his role, it sounds like he's going to have a massive role in the team. It sounds like basically Vic Fangio just wants to get him on the field however way it's possible. I like that. I think that's great. But with that also comes Reed Blankenship, safety. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, obviously, with his injury concerns, and then you do have depth behind him as well with young guys there as well. So I think it's going to be it's exciting, but it's also going to be one of those things where they're going to get burned for a game. We're going to be worried about, did we pick the right guys? How are these guys developing? But yeah, I think we need to have a little bit of patience with it, and we don't. So
Eagles fans having patience? I don't know about that one.
I don't know about that. But yeah, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis obviously have to take the reins over on the defensive line. Now, I think one underrated part about the whole defensive line changes that is going to be made is Milton Williams and how big of a role he's going to have this year. I think it's I don't know. It feels more ensuring to me to have him on the team still, and with his rotation with those two guys. I don't know about you. Do you have anything on the defense?
No, the defense is obviously where my eyes are going to be for the entire season. When I did my NFC East preview with Theo Ash. If you haven't listened to that, please check that out after this episode. I think the offense is going to be good this year. Like, I think the Kellen Moore addition plus just the amount of talent that they have, I think they're going to have a top 5 offense. And I think a lot of people have that take. So that's not crazy at all to say. The defense is where my underlying concerns are. Like last year, they were a disaster, 29th in EPA per play on defense. We know how the Matt Patricia thing went. We know how the Sean Desai thing went. We saw it with our own eyes. They were arguably the worst defense in the NFL over the last 6 to 7 weeks. And it's a whole new system now, a whole new just philosophy, a completely revamped secondary, like you said, with the young guys coming in. So how long will this take to mesh? Will these young guys step up and play well? Because they're relying on them to play well. Like, if they don't, we're in for, again, another bad secondary. Like we saw last year, like they had Bradley Roby play significant snaps. Josh Jobe, play significant snaps. Like, they were a turnstile at the back end of the defense. So, like, I'm along with you, like many Eagles fans, including me and you, our eyes are going to be on Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean. You can see Jay Gardner-Johnson step up and play a huge role. Like, if they can't defend the pass, and if they get torched again, like Baker Mayfield did in the wild card round, it's going to be a long season. And you brought up a good point when you said, like, how long or will this kind of struggle early, and will this take some time? When I was digging up for the NFC's preview, I did see Vic Fangio's worst 4 success rate and EPA games were in the first 5 games of the Miami Dolphins season last year. I believe we talked about this when they hired Fangio. Like, the Miami Dolphins defense was 6th in EPA per play down the stretch last season, so they were really good towards the end of the year. But it was a tough go to start because he runs a complicated scheme, and there's a lot of young guys as well on this team. So and it's not an easy test to start, which we'll obviously get into with the Green Bay Packers. Like, this is a very good team and a very good offense, so they're going to be tested early.
Yeah, I think for me, maybe the concern that I have, the underrated concern maybe is going to be in the middle of the offensive line, obviously with Jason Kelce retiring. And it's not that I have too many concerns about Cam Jurgens. I think he's a really good player. I think when he did play last year, I think he did a hell of a job at right guard. So I'm not too concerned about that. But it's just the change, like when. It's been a long time since we had 2 new guys start right next to each other, especially on the interior of the Eagles' offensive line. Now, obviously, Jordan Mailata came in there, but then you still had some veteran presence at left guard, so he kind of got his footing. Then you got Landon Dickerson in after Jordan Mailata, had developed. But now you're putting in 2 brand new guys with Cam Jurgens at the center, and Mekhi Becton at right guard. I don't know how. I don't feel confident yet in Mekhi Becton at right guard. Like, I need to see it in a game. I need to see him move his feet and not be a liability against stunts and moves on the against the quick defensive lines, because that's one area where this extremely talented Eagles offense that has weapons galore could be exposed and could, basically falter. Is if they can't protect Jalen Hurts up the middle, and he starts going back to some of the trends we've seen before, and panicking in the pocket a little bit and trying to create something this and there, maybe getting injured like we saw last year, where he obviously wasn't right. Like, it's just one of those things where it's such a small thing. It's 1 out of 11 positions or 2 out of 11 positions on the offense, but it's so vital, and I don't like the depth. But I also think we've gotten spoiled for so long with the offensive line play, so it's new territory to kind of see, like,
uncharted waters.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you with the depth. Like, if you look at the Eagles' depth chart, like one injury to Landon Dickerson, you got Trevor Keegan stepping in. One injury to Elaine Johnson, you have Fred Johnson in, who has been praised by Jeff Stoutland and whatnot, but he was almost out of the league 2 years ago. The depth is not there like it has been in previous years. And at the starter position, I'm with you on Becton. I was talking to my coworkers last weekend when we were covering the college football games at the office. I was going, when the Eagles film drops on Saturday or Sunday, whenever it does on NFL Pro, I'm running to Mekhi Becton film. Like, he's the guy that I'm so curious to see how this works. And Cam Jurgens, like you said, I'm with you. I've been banging the drum all offseason, and I was banging on the NFC's preview that I'm fine with Cam Jurgens. Like, I think the Jason Kelsey loss is more on Jalen Hurts and like how he reads the blitz and how he dissects, because we're gonna talk about it with the Packers. He's gonna have a lot more to do at the line of scrimmage than in previous seasons. Jason Kelsey's been in charge of that, and now it's Jalen Hurts. But I think Cam Jurgens is now back to his natural position. I think it will work out for him. So yeah, I think Becton, of course, the right guard spot. We've been banging this drum all offseason that it's the biggest hole on the team. Is there any little depth chart stuff that you had your eye on? Any training camp cuts? Anything like that? We'll get into the Devin White thing when we do Eagles defense versus Packers offense. That's probably where your head was going. But anything else outside of that?
I think the whole Kelly Ringo versus Asai Rogers, who starts basically, was probably the thing I had my eye on the most, because I wasn't really sure. Like, I think Kelly Ringo played really well in all the preseason games. All reports out of camp were good for Kelly. But I think I think it's more to a point where you want to have someone who's a little bit more experienced in there, so you don't put too much I don't need too much youth, but too much inexperience on the field at the same time in the secondary. I think for Fangio, it probably came down to marginals in terms of picking up the defense, like you said. And I mean, it's kind of crazy, right? Like Asai Rogers, Keely Ringo, Quinton Mitchell, Reed Blankenship. What's the average age of those guys? Like 24, 25?
Yeah, Isaiah Rogers is still young, and like he's not even that experienced either, right? Like he sat out all
exactly. He played. I think he played 3 full seasons with the Colts, and then
he wasn't a starter all those seasons. He had that one. I think he had the one. Was it 2021 or 2022 where he started full?
Yeah,
and he was really good. Like he had really good efficiency numbers, and he was good play by play. Sorry, but it wasn't like he has a ton of snaps under his belt.
Right. I also that was one thing that I kept my eye on, and then the depth outside linebacker, like Nolan Smith and the whole Jalix Hunt development, like he really showed some things. I think that was great to see. I understand why. I think a little bit too much was made out of how much Nolan Smith played in the preseason games. Like he obviously got too little playing time last year, and he's a guy who we all knew that coming out of Georgia, he was raw playing the outside linebacker position or playing the rush position. So it was just about like getting him on the field as much as possible and letting him develop as much as possible. And these old antics about traditions of who plays and where in the preseason games and predicting depth charts and rosters based off playing time in preseason, I think it gets too simplified sometimes. I'm not worried about Nolan Smith yet. I mean, it's way too early to tell anything about him. But I like the depth there, the developmental depth with Nolan Smith and Jalix Hunt. I think that those are two talented guys to have.
Yeah, the Nolan Smith preseason snap thing was like the biggest talking point on Twitter and so equal social media. Like, let the guy play, let him get some serious snap turns, but I don't think it's wrong at all for him to play in preseason. And you can't just base his the fact that he's a bust or not off of how he's playing in his second year in preseason. Of course, there's concern. Of course, if you're an Eagles fan, you're kind of have your guardrails up with him because he didn't play really at all last season. And he didn't. When he did, he had like one. I think he had that one sack where he where he was unblocked against the Miami Dolphins. But like outside of that, like there wasn't a ton to work with. But He's gonna get increased snaps this year. The Eagle, like you said, the Eagles' defensive line depth is young. They have like you're banking on Bryce Huff to play a ton of snaps this year, and you're banking on Brandon Graham again to play a ton of snaps. But then outside of that, like you got Moro Ojima who could play some end snaps. And Nolan Smith. So like there's a ton of playing time to be had here. Jalen Hunt was a surprise to me that he's played so well. I was a big Jalen Hunt guy. I wrote about him at the Score of my 10 underrated prospects piece. I always thought he was a perfect fit with the Eagles. Like his safety transition to end, but it sounds like he's actually gonna have like a role early in the season. So the defense is fascinating. Honestly, when I was doing my division preview series for my podcast, when I was going like every unit in the NFL, offense, defense, the Eagles defense might be one of the most fascinating units in the NFL by a wide mark. Like there's so much to dissect here because it was so bad last year and they completely revamped everything around it. And they're a contending team. Like they're just, they're going to be a film watcher's dream all season.
Right. But also like, counterpoint, or just go into the other side, not a counterpoint, but just go the other side, like Eagles offense, of how extremely talented it was. The historic collapse we've heard so much about offensively, the lack of creative plays and these generic things that we could call from our sitting on our couch, we could call the Eagles plays. And now they actually have a guy at offensive coordinator who is moving around, who is taking things from being least in motion rate in the NFL, one of the guys who was doing that the most. You have a guy who potentially could unlock this extreme, like probably it's the most talented skill position group of guys that ever has been in Eagles history, with the addition of Saquon Barkley and the rise of DeVonta Smith to a level that we expected or at least hoped for. And now you have a guy coming in here who's going to change what they did last year radically. It could be scary good if the offensive line holds up just somewhat decently, like not even top 10. I mean, if Eagles O-line is top 16 in pass protection efficiency and run blocks as well as it usually does, holy.
Yeah, and they were first in EPA per rush from 2021 to 2023. This has been a really efficient run team, and now you just drop Saquon Barkley in there. It's funny when you look at like DeAndre Swift's underlying numbers last year; they weren't great. Just rushing yards per expected rushing yards per touch. Like there was a lot of kind of meat left off the bone with DeAndre Swift last year, and of course, like he had a lot of open holes. But like, can Saquon Barkley add on to that? They're such a fun team. This is one of the years where I don't really have a great read on the team, but I'm one of the most exciting seasons heading in in preseason to talking about them, because there's so many different variables here that go in with the coaching staff, added players like Howie Roseman, just a fun offseason for Eagles fans. So let's dive into Friday night, Thomas. Eagles versus Packers, week 1 in Sao Paulo, Brazil. We're going to break down both sides of the ball, what to expect, what are some matchups we like. Let's start with the Packers offense versus the Eagles defense. Packers were 6th in offensive DVOA last year, 4th in dropback EPA, 10th in rush EPA. They were a really good offense, and they were led by Jordan Love down the stretch, who dominated. He was 5th in EPA per play by a quarterback all season, but he was 2nd from weeks 12 to 18. Now, they did feast on some bad players, a bad team, and they were only 7th in DVOA during that stretch. However, Jordan Love, like from the eye test, Jordan Love looked amazing. He really came into his own, and he's, in my opinion, like a top 8 quarterback in the NFL. Now, I'm a big Jordan Love guy, but what are you looking for in this matchup when you hear Packers offense versus Eagles defense? What catches your eye?
So Packers offense was basically in the situation that the Eagles defense is in right now a few years ago. Like it was a collection of really, really young guys who you just hope for the best with Jordan Love as the quarterback. And they had all of their hiccups and their rookie mistakes and kind of gelling together in this offense with a bunch of young guys. They had all those mistakes like cleared out, and they really started to play good football on offense down the stretch last year. And that game against Dallas is probably one of the most, like it's the most memorable game from last year. Like I remember
that was our
Dallas
game for Eagles fans. That was probably the most fun game we had to watch, right?
exactly, and it's probably also the game I remember the best of last year. Like it wasn't even Eagles game; it is the one I remember the most from last season. I think my brain just kind of fogged out with how the Eagles season went there at the end.
That pick, I think, who had that pick six? It was like right before halftime. It was great. It would put them up like 27-0.
Yeah,
I can't remember which back. Oh, that was
everything was
music to my
just
ears.
it was just going exactly like you wanted it to.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
but I think it's Romeo Doubs and Christian Watkins kind of scare me a little bit against the Eagles secondary because they're two of those guys who are they're really good route runners and they have underrated speed. Now Christian Watson specifically his speed is terrific.
Yeah, he can fly.
He can really fly. And Romeo Doubs, I mean, really great contested catch guy, runs some good routes. And then just if Jordan Love comes right out and picks up where he left off last year, it's gonna be a tough one early for a secondary who is still learning the communication and keys on the offense and communicating mid play and pre snap. We're gonna see. I think we're gonna see some busts in coverage. But I just hope that even though they have schematic hiccups, that we just see fundamentally sound football. That we see them be somewhat in position for most of the game.
Yeah, like there's no hiding the fact that they're going to attack the Eagles linebackers here. And let's dive into the Devin White thing. So Devin White is ruled out for the Eagles opener against the Packers. He was limited, right, with an ankle injury in practice. Like he wasn't out of that practice, correct? Like he was limited. So it kind of came out of nowhere, the fact that he wasn't traveling. Like it was kind of hidden. A lot of no one really had this news until Jeff McLean broke it earlier this morning. And Nakobe Dean is now thrust into the starting position. Now, Eagles fans are kind of going, we haven't, where did this come from? But if you actually dig deeper, if you look at the Eagles depth chart that the PR department released on, I think it was last Friday, so a week before the game, they had Devin White and Nakobe Dean starting together. Like it was Devin White / Dean. So this wasn't like a foregone conclusion that Devin White was going to start. Now
didn't they have the same thing that they did in the preseason games, where it was Devin White starting at one linebacker spot and then Nakobe Dean / Zach Bond in the other one?
Yeah, I didn't see any of the preseason depth charts. I'm not 100% sure, but I know because I got the email from the PR department through my work, and I was checking out the depth chart. And that was kind of the thing that kind of caught my eye a little bit. And I didn't really think too much of it. I also thought Devin White was going to be the starter. But now it's Dean's turn. Now it's his job. And I think there's a little bit of a negative talk about how he played when he was healthy. Like he was okay. He wasn't terrible. He had 30 tackles, 2 TFLs, 1 quarterback hit. He had a really good game in that Washington game when there was 38-31. He's one of the best players on the field for the Eagles defense. He had 2 TFLs in that one. I think Eagles fans should be excited about him because he played really well in training camp, according to all the beat reporters that were on the site. And I would actually rather see Nakobe Dean start than Devin White. I've never been a big Devin White guy at all. That was one of the signings I didn't really love from Howie Roseman this season. He was benched by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He did not play basically against the Eagles on a really good defense. And this was a guy that was a star in the Super Bowl run back with Tom Brady. So he really fell off a cliff. And I think this is a good sign rather than a bad sign, if that makes sense. I think Eagles fans are reading this the wrong way a little bit.
It's just weird that they would they would rotate a lot with the linebackers in training camp, but not Devin White. It would always be Devin White with first team, and then either Zach Bond, Jeremiah Trotter, or Nakobe Dean. Mm-hmm. It would not Devin White didn't come out.
Yeah. No, you're right. From the beginning to basically the last half portion of the training camp,
right.
He was basically slotted as a starter from all reports.
It's weird. It's a weird distribution of first team reps in practice. Yeah. But
yeah. Vic Fangio must not like him very much, like, to be honest. Like, he was...
It's just weird.
Because he has guaranteed money on his contract, right? So he was... how he probably goes, see what we can do with him in training camp. Like, they paid him real money. Like, this isn't a scrap.
But then why not have Devin White and Nakobe Dean start next to each other? Like, if you want to have blitzing linebackers, go ahead. Like, you have Zach Bond, who never played linebacker. Like, they must really... Yeah, I think it's a little bit weird.
The Zach Bond thing.
It'll be so telling if they come back from Brazil and Devin White's ankle is okay and he starts next to Nakobe Dean against the Falcons.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like the whole thing just got blown up and it's actually an ankle, like a sprained ankle, and he didn't want to travel to Brazil because you don't want to have a guy who just sprained his ankle travel 9 hours in the plane, and then you just leave him at home rehab, and then he's like that'll be. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, like Zach Bond isn't, like, in my opinion, like a lock to play. Like, he has 88 career tackles. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like this. And for some reason, the Eagles are like love him. He was getting like first team inside linebacker starts right out the gate. When they signed him, I thought they were going to move him to like as a pass rusher, and it's bizarre to me. So I'm looking at the linebackers. The Packers are going to attack that. They're very good at attacking the slot too. They were 6 in EP per play last season attacking the slot. They love their kind of crossing routes over the middle. They love using motion to kind of get one-on-one matchups with linebackers. This is when you're watching Kellen Moore versus Matt LaFleur, you're hoping to see a lot similar stylistic tendencies from Matt LaFleur with Kellen Moore, because this is what you're hoping. Like, we want to be this new modern version of the offense. The Packers are going to show you that. Like, they also finished 6th in motion rate last year. They were 15th in DVOA in it from week 12 till week 12, 4th after. And they really jacked up their motion rate. They were 69% first in the NFL in it from week 12 to 18. So they kind of found something with using motion towards the end of the season, and they're going to use it a ton. They're going to want to get one-on-one matchups with Nakobe on the outside. Zach Bond in coverage terrifies me right now. Like, that's where I'm looking if I'm a Packers, if I'm Matt LaFleur to attack. So I think it has to be the number one concern and the number one area to watch is, will this kind of final, like, will Howie Rosen finally look and go, maybe I did screw up for the 3rd straight year or 2nd straight year of not adding talented linebackers?
I just watched someone put together a clip of a Luke Kuechly coverage film. I was actually stunned. Like, I was sitting there, and then a minute after the video had ended, I just went like, damn. He was so good. Like, he was so good. Do you remember the game when the Panthers played Dallas and Dak threw 3 picks, including 2 pick sixes to Luke Kuechly?
Yep. Like,
he single-handedly won that game. I immediately thought of that game, and then the whole idea that linebackers don't get you wins. Like, he got that win by himself. I thought that was kind of, and then, is right. You watch that right in the middle of this whole linebacker thing with the Eagles. So yeah, I agree with everything you said.
Good linebacker play just doesn't happen in Philly. We have this Nigel Bradham, the guy that I remember, the Nigel Bradham Panthers game. Speaking of Carolina Panthers during that 2017 Super Bowl run on that Thursday night, that was one of the best. That was probably the best linebacker game I've seen from an Eagles player. It was like Jeremiah Trotter back when I was a kid.
Right.
So I think the highest upside of any linebacker on the team is Nakobe Dean. So why not play him? Right. Like, that's how I look at this. I'm not guaranteeing saying he's going to be awesome. That's not where I'm going with this. But I think if you have a shot at having a good linebacker, I think it's Dean. He was very good at Georgia. He's battled injuries. He said he's as healthy as he's ever been. So why not thrust him in the starting lineup right away and waste your time doing the Devin White thing? Because I think I know who Devin White is as a player. I don't think he's very good. I think I don't know who Nakobe Dean is as a player. So let's find out. That's how I look at this.
Makes sense.
So the more kind of Packers tendencies, they love lining up 12 personnel, and they love kind of beefed up offensive line. They finished 7th in the NFL last season in 12 personnel, 6+ offensive line sets, 9th in multi-back sets. They weren't very good at multi-back sets, so they're probably going to transition out of that. And they really only have Josh Jacobs in the running back room because A.J. Dillon was put on season-ending IR. He's not going to play this year. Marshawn Lloyd's also battling an injury, the rookie running back that they drafted. So it's going to be a lot of Josh Jacobs, and I think you're not going to see the multi-back sets like I just said. But this is just in general here. I'm so high on the Packers offense this year. I think they're going to be a top 3 unit in the league. So this is a very hard test for this young Eagles defense.
Yeah, right out the gate.
Yeah. So just quickly on Quinyon Mitchell, you brought up at the top where they said Vic Fangio's like talking him up. He said that he's confident playing Quinyon Mitchell basically the entire game. I don't think we're going to see Quinyon Mitchell off the field. Sorry. I think you're going to see him in base defense on the outside, and then when they run into their nickel packages, he's going to play inside. And we still really don't know who's going to start on the outside over Keely Ringo, Isaiah Rodgers. Now, Isaiah Rodgers was slotted as the starting cornerback on that depth chart that we talked about, but it's not guaranteed yet. They've been kind of flip-flopping all off-season or all training camp, so that's where my eyes are going to be depth chart wise, is who the hell is playing majority of the snaps on the outside when Quinyon Mitchell moves inside.
Yep. I think we could see him in a situation where he's going to be traveling with Christian Watson. Like, he's by far the most agile and fast secondary defender Eagles have.
Mm-hmm. Dontavian Wicks is my favorite player on the Packers. Just quickly, I think he's going to be a superstar. Maybe not this year, but I'm obsessed with him. Like 67% catch rate last year, 2.5 yards per route run. He led all the Packers receivers in DVOA. I think he's like a sneaky, like potential top 25 receiver in the league over the next 2 years. So I don't know if it's going to come week 1. I think he might take some time to develop again more this year, but I'm excited to watch him play on Friday night. Is there anything else on the Packers offense versus the Eagles defense? I guess we should talk about Jalen Carter and the Packers offensive line, actually.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think Jalen Carter is probably going to be the X factor for me, like the guy who can wreck the game for the Packers offense.
Yeah, the right guard position, the Packers, is a complete mystery right now. So I was kind of digging up because when you look at the Packers depth chart, Jordan Morgan is slotted to start week 1. He's the first round rookie, but he was a tackle in college, and he battled a shoulder injury during training camp. And Matt LaFleur has been completely quiet on this. I was looking up some quotes on September 2nd. So 2 days ago, he said, "We have a plan at right guard." They haven't said who's the hell's going to start yet. So it could be Sean Ryan, who was a 3rd round draft pick in 2021. He has not played well since in like spot playing time. Sorry, he had like 7 pressures on like 90 pass block snaps last season. He was one of the Packers' worst graded offensive linemen. And I still think Rasheed Walker on the outside too. He was a 7th round rookie. He played really well for them, but I still think that he could be had as well. Like I think they have. We're gonna say this every fucking game. Sorry for my language, but they have to get pressure. Like it's they got to get at Jordan Love, and I think Jalen Carter is the guy that of course they're going to be focused on.
Yeah, I think you're right.
The Double Doink Podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. Life is hard. It's especially hard when you don't have someone you can open up to. Not everyone is comfortable talking to their friends and family about their personal matters or anything that is bothering them on a day-to-day basis. Mental health is so important to continued success in this world. Therapy is a great way to regroup and get everything off your chest. Insert BetterHelp. BetterHelp is the largest online therapy service, 100% online. They will match you with a professional licensed therapist you can trust. You can talk with your therapist however you see fit, via text, phone call, or video chat. BetterHelp has successfully helped over 4 million people worldwide deal with their day-to-day mental health issues. Use the link in the podcast description to get 10% off your first month at BetterHelp.
All right, let's move over to Packers defense versus the Eagles offense. Now, this one is a very hard matchup to kind of dissect and get a read on, because there's 2 new coordinators on both sides of the ball. So Kellen Moore is obviously the new Eagles offensive coordinator, but if fans don't know, the Packers also have a new defensive coordinator in Jeff Hafley. So he was the head coach from Boston College for the last 4 years. It's funny because a lot of people were like saying, "Oh, it was a great hire. He's a good defensive mind." But when you talk to Boston College fans, especially after they just routed Florida State on Monday night, Monday night, he was getting ripped by Boston College fans online, and a lot of fans wanted him out the door. There were talks that he was actually going to get fired at Boston College, and he did not take that job. Like, he took it and ran because he knew the axe was coming. Boston College ends up hiring Bill O'Brien. They get their guy in to be the head coach, and Boston College's defense was not good under Jeff Hafley. They had a top scoring defense just once. Last season, they were ranked 79th in scoring, averaging about 25 points per game. And I get it, Boston College doesn't have a lot of talent on defense, but man, it's not like this guy has some amazing resume that Eagles fans should be scared of.
Nope. No, you're right. It's actually a little bit of mystery here about this those schematics about it. I mean, we can go off of basically skill going against skill.
Yeah, so I was doing some digging from the for the NFC North preview. General manager Brian Gutekunst did say that they want to run a 4-2-5 defense, so kind of just like that's the base defense there is nowadays in the NFL. We don't really have three linebackers on the field, but this is a turnover from a 3-4 defense that they ran under Joe Barry and to a 4-3 style defense. So it's a completely new system as well for the Green Bay Packers. Jeff Hafley has been prominently known to run a lot of single high coverage and man-to-man. He's kind of an old school style defensive coordinator. So the Eagles have a completely new scheme to learn, and same with the Green Bay Packers. And the Eagles offense should be able to feast here, because I don't think I think the Packers offense is going to be spectacular this year. I don't know about the defense. Like, there's 7 former first round picks on this team. They loaded up in the draft on that side of the ball, but a lot of them haven't came to fruition yet. There's a lot of you're banking on guys up getting better and developing. So week 1, this is a great defense to play for the Eagles offense. Like, I think Kellen Moore and Nick Sirianni should be very happy this is the matchup they got.
Yeah, and for the Eagles offense specifically, it's just going to be about, does Jalen Hurts continue his training camp hot streak? Like, he's been almost perfect and taking shots downfield, maneuvering the offense. Kellen Moore said nothing but great things about him all camp long, and how he's taken in the playbook and how he's mastered the offense. But now we're gonna see it with bullets flying, because we haven't seen that. They didn't play any preseason snaps. They got a little bit of joint practice, but that's about it. A lot of that was also like individual work, not too many team reps there. So it's gonna be really exciting, and we can tell a lot more about what to expect from the Eagles offense after this. And I also think it's talking about the Eagles offensive line and the new guys they have there. It's going to be a good matchup going against the Packers D line that have some profile players and have some fast linebackers like Quay Walker, fast dude. I don't know if Jaron Cooper is going to play. He was a little bit banged up. If he does get in, fast, agile guy as well.
He was a draft crush for us, eh? We both loved.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. He was. Yeah, really like smooth athlete. So it's I think it's a good matchup. Eagles historically, at least over the last 5 years, have had a lot of success in the running game against the Packers. Specifically, Packers usually don't blitz too much, or at least they haven't done before. But yeah, like you said, it's difficult to expect. Like, what are we going to predict to expect now from them? Because it's going to be obviously going to be different.
Yeah, if you're Kellen Moore in the Eagles, in Nick Sirianni in the Eagles brass, I think you brought up like skill versus skill. This might be like a game where you're just going deep to A.J. Brown down the sidelines, Devonta Smith down the sidelines, because I like Jair Alexander. I think he's a really good corner, but I think Eric Stokes can be had on the outside. He was brutal as a starter in 2022. Like, he was dead last in success rate of all qualifying quarterbacks the last time he was a starter. Dead last. And he dealt with a knee injury last year that held him out of all the season, and now he won the job again. So I think they should be trying to find matchups against him. I think the slot corner is Keyshawn Nixon, who they signed to an extension this offseason. He's more of like a special, like he's flashes on special teams rather than more on the defense. Like, there's a lot of home run matchups here.
Give me any one of the Eagles receivers against these guys, like John Dotson in the slot. Give him all day against Nixon, Smith, AJ. Pick whatever cornerback they have. I would still go either one of those guys against them.
Yeah, quickly just on you brought up, sorry, I wanted to comment on this, the like what the offense is going to look like for the Eagles. I want to watch the film on Saturday or whatever it is, and I want to go, that is big boy offense. That's grown-up offense. I see a guy in motion. I see like matchup mismatches. Like, I just want to come away from this game going, yes, they finally have done something new and fresh. You know what I mean? Like, it's not too much to ask. It's like the Leonardo DiCaprio from Rick Dalton, I think, is the movie character where he's on the couch pointing at the TV. Like, I just wanted, when I see that one. Like, when I just want to see the first motion, I just want to point at my TV and go, there it is. Like, it's live, it's real, it's happening. Finally, we have an Eagles offense that's like actually lives up to the expectations and lives up to the talent.
I think I'm with you. I'll prepare. Is it a beer he has in his one hand? And then,
He's got the canned beer and he's pointing on the couch. Yeah.
Right. All right. So we have to find some way to resemble that.
Yeah. I that's what I want to see, and I really do think that this is a great matchup, like I said, for the Eagles offense. They should be really excited to face this style of defense because we brought up the Vic Fangio could take a long time to get used to his scheme. Same goes on the other side of the ball because the Packers are running a completely different scheme than Joe Barry. And like this defense was bad last year, 27th in DVOA, 27th in success rate. They were dead last on throws of 20 plus yards in DVOA. They led the third highest rate of throws going for more than 15 plus yards. This Eagles offense should be able to push the ball deep.
Yep.
All right. Is there anything else on this matchup?
I can't wait about it, man. It's the one thing I will say. Again, they start with 2 night games.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
I actually don't because I have to cover the games on Sundays and I have like 8 to 4 shifts. Like I actually don't mind when they're on night games for me because I get to watch them. Like a Friday night, I'm not working on Friday nights, so I get to watch them personally. So for me, I don't mind it. But this year, the schedule, Thomas, like they have the first 2 night games, and then they play a ton of more 1 o'clock games. Like last year, they were thrusted on primetime TV a ton. It's better for you because you have to. What time is it going to be for you? It's going to be like what through 2 in the morning?
2:30 a.m.
Oh, get that coffee machine ready.
My God.
Oh. All right, I think that's all we got on the matchup. Let's get into some predictions here. Okay, so Eagles fans, don't hate me, but I picked the Green Bay Packers to win the NFC. I think the Eagles are going to finish second in the NFC. So I think this is a very tough team to play. I think this is going to be a very high-scoring affair. I'm going Green Bay. I think Packers are going 34 points, Eagles 31. I think they lose week 1, but I think the Eagles roll after that. Like I don't think it's a big deal if they lose this game. Like I said, the Packers are going to be very good. This is a tough offense to play week 1. I think the Eagles defense is going to go off to a little bit of a slow start. So I'm predicting the Eagles lose week 1, but I think they win. I don't know the exact amount of games they win after. 34-31 Packers is my prediction.
34-31. I have the reverse. Like how the Eagles winning 34-31. I think they win on a Jake Elliott field goal.
Nice. So take the over is what we're saying. Like I think there's going to be a ton of points in this one.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so before we go, I want to get some season predictions from you because we haven't really talked outside Eagles at all really as well. So I'm going to go division by division with you. I'm going to get your division winners.
It's a tough one with with so much we don't have any idea about the Eagles.
So I'm going to go division by division. I'm going to get your division winners, and then I'm going to get your conference championship predictions and your Super Bowl prediction. So let's go with the NFC. Let's start with the NFC. NFC East. Do you have the Eagles win the division?
I do have the Eagles winning the division. I can't take the Cowboys serious about how they've handled the offseason. They're all in offseason. It doesn't make sense.
I'm also with the Eagles. I have the Cowboys actually missing the playoffs this year. I'm usually not. Yeah, that was one of my bolder takes in the NFC. I have them finishing 9-8, missing the playoffs. I made my case for it on the NFC East preview. I think I'm usually the Eagles guy that has the Cowboys back and thinks they're going to be good. I thought they were going to make the Super Bowl last year heading into the playoffs. Like they were awesome. I thought last year was their year, and I think they missed their window. So I'm predicting a downfall. I have the Eagles winning that division. I think I predicted 11-6 Eagles record. So I think they're going to take the NFC East. NFC West.
NFC West. That's going to be such a fun division to watch this year as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like I kind of have this great feeling about the Cardinals, but I think it's also more. I think it's also more just the floor was so low last year, so like it's kind of with the Bears, As soon as they get something going, you're kind of jumping on the hype train a little bit there. But yeah, I think I'm just gonna go with the clear and obvious one. It would be the 49ers, but I think the Cardinals are a dark horse team, and I would not be surprised if they finish second and get in the playoffs.
Thomas, I'll make room. I'll move my fat ass. I'll get in the Cardinals bandwagon. You can hop on board because I'm all on board the Cardinals bandwagon. I have the 49ers win the division.
They have so many players.
Yeah, they're a fun team this year. I think their offense is sneaky, like top 5 potential. I think Kyler Murray takes a really step forward. Their run game was amazing last year towards the end of the season. Their offensive line's solid. I love the Trey Benson addition. I think he can like take a lot of touches away from James Conner and be more efficient than he was. Marvin Harrison Jr. Like, I'm so high on the Cardinals this year. I have the 49ers.
Also, they extended the only Dane in the NFL in Hjalte Froholt, their center.
He's a
3-year extension. Yeah, he's from Denmark. 3-year extension, $18 million. He's the only Danish player who's ever gotten an extension, let alone get drafted.
Hell yeah. They also drafted Ajax, Ontario's native, Isaiah Adams, sorry. He's I'm friends with his brother. I know Isaiah pretty well.
Nice.
So there's a couple local connections for us. Yeah, he was born and raised like 5 minutes away from me in my hometown of Ajax, Ontario. So he didn't win the starting job at a camp, but he's going to be a backup rotational offensive lineman. He was a 3rd-round pick for the Cardinals this season.
I also think it's refreshing because I used to hate the Cardinals always. But I don't know, something about this.
2008, I will never forget that game. The Larry Fitzgerald.
Right. I think every time Eagles played the Cardinals, they're just annoying.
Last year, what was the worst football game I've ever watched?
Right.
From Eagles. So I'm with you. I hate the Arizona Cardinals too, but I'm on the bandwagon this season. So I have the 49ers winning the division, Cardinals making the playoffs. NFC North.
See, NFC North, I'm having a hard time because my logic would want me to say Lions, just based off their recent success and how well they're doing. But I'm with you. I think I have a better feeling about the Packers. I think they have the better quarterback. I think Jordan Love's ceiling is way higher than Jared Goff. I think Jared Goff is a high floor, low ceiling guy who's surrounded with a lot of talent. But I just think the players around the Packers are better. I think it's gonna come down to those two teams. But yeah, I'm gonna go with the Packers.
I have 3 teams making the playoffs from this division. I think it's the best division of football.
Wait, so you have Bears or Vikings?
I have the Bears. I have the Packers winning the division.
Spicy.
I have the Packers at 12-5 with the best record in the NFC. I think they're going to be a very, very good team, like I already said. I have the Detroit Lions finishing second in that division, getting the top wildcard spot in the NFC. And I have the Chicago Bears sneaking in with the 6th seed. I think the Bears are going to be pretty good. I think one of the things that no one's talking about the Bears is the defense. Like, I think this defense has a lot of potential as well on top of Caleb Williams. Like, I'd be excited if I was a Bears fan. I think it's going to be a fun year for them. So I have 3 teams coming in that division. Packers, Lions, Bears in that order. Okay, NFC South, the best division of football, Thomas. Fuck the NFC North, the NFC South.
I think this is probably the easiest pick in the entire NFC. I'm going to go with the Falcons.
You're like a Falcon. You like the Falcons, eh? I think we've had this conversation before. They're like your
I like
team.
the Falcons. I always get drawn into the Falcons' lack of hype every year.
All right, well, I'm going to poo-poo your Falcons. I think the New Orleans Saints are winning this division. I think the Falcons are going to be the biggest flop out of any team this year. Sorry,
really?
Thomas. I'm not buying it. Why should I buy a 36-year-old quarterback coming off a torn Achilles in front of an offensive line that's going downwards, a weapon group that I think is the most overrated weapon group in the NFL? Like, I like Bijan Robinson a lot. I'm not a big Drake London guy.
But I think the reason why they're overrated is because we've never seen them with someone who can actually throw a football beyond 5 yards.
Yeah, but he's coming off a torn Achilles. He's 36 years old. Like,
they have Desmond Ridder behind him. I think Desmond Ridder is going to be a good quarterback too. Like,
Desmond Ridder's gone. Desmond Ridder's long.
Oh, no, not Desmond Ridder.
Michael Penix.
Michael Penix, yeah.
Yeah. Like, I do think there's a scenario where Michael Penix is the quarterback at some point this season.
And even in that case, I would still pick the Falcons. Like, if Michael Penix was the starter for the Falcons, I think I'd still pick them, to be honest.
The reason I went with the Saints is because, one, I think they're going to be like just mediocre to average. I think they're going to win the division with a 9-8 record. They still have a lot of like just high-end old talent that I think is expiring, but I think they could play well this year. It's funny, when you look at DVOA metrics, the Saints are projected to win 9.7 games, the Atlanta Falcons 6.4. So the analytics are all over the Saints pushing against the Falcons, and I'm kind of buying that side of the DVOA metrics here. I just think the Saints are going to just be just good enough. They were 9-8 last year. Like, they almost
I just don't.
You know what I mean?
The Falcons just going to the Falcons. Their offensive line is solid.
Yeah, but it's declining. It's declined the last 2 years.
I mean, don't they have a bunch of like kind of young guys?
They're the third most expensive.
Lindstrom, Guerreri.
The third most expensive offensive line in the NFL. this year. They were the
Right.
most expensive last year. They've
Like
invested
they've
in it.
so invested in the offense, and they made a bunch of additions to their defense that I think is pretty good as well. Like their safety duo is probably the best in the league. AJ Terrell is a I don't know, maybe top 10 is a little bit high, but he's a really good corner in the league. The addition of like obviously they're fragile in the D line. They rely solely on Grady Jarrett and Matthew Judon.
Yeah, so we're relying on a guy that played 4 games off a torn bicep at 32 years old to be your
I mean,
main
it's
pass
torn
rusher.
bicep. It's not like
That's a hard. Do you know how painful a torn bicep would be? Oh my god, it makes
it's
me cringe thinking
painful
about
when it happens, but the recovery is pretty good. So
Yeah, that's it was one of my bolder takes when I was doing my division preview series. I'm selling the Atlanta Falcons. Okay,
Ooh.
so there, yeah. Sorry to say, Thomas. All right, let's move over to the AFC. AFC East. Who's winning that one?
I assume you burying the Jets, because why would you defend a 40-plus-year-old quarterback coming off a torn Achilles if you don't believe in a 36-year-old one coming off torn Achilles?
You know me too well. I have the New York Jets missing the playoffs. I think they're going to
Right.
fall. I get the there's an argument to be made where like they were 7-10 last year with terrible quarterback play, the worst quarterback play in the league. So your argument with the Jets is, if you're saying they're going to succeed this year, is you just have average to above average quarterback play with a solid defense. It's gonna be successful. I have serious questions with the Jets' offensive line still. Like, when did Tyron Smith and Morgan Moses become the best offensive tackles in the league? Could someone tell me this? Tyron Smith hasn't played a full season since 2015. Morgan Moses was let go by the Ravens offensive line. They said, go away. Like, they didn't want to retain him. They're going with rookies and a skeptical offensive line above him. I do not get the New York Jets offensive line hype. I don't get their
The Penn State guy is going to be starting eventually, right?
Yeah, like he's their sixth
Fashanu.
offensive lineman, and I think he's going to play significant snaps. I like Olo Fashanu. I think he's good. Don't get me wrong, but I also think like Aaron Rodgers is probably not going to stay healthy for the whole year. Mike Williams isn't going to stay healthy for the whole year. Like, I have too many question marks about that team. I think this division is going to be not as good as everyone thinks it is. So
but I have the Dolphins. But
you have the Dolphins winning that division.
Yeah.
Interesting. I have both the Jets and the Dolphins missing the playoffs. I'm so low on Tua Tagovailoa as a quarterback. I got in a big fight with a friend about this. He tried to say Tua is better than Jalen Hurts. We got in beef over this one.
What veteran wide receiver do you think the Bills are going to be trading for before the deadline?
Ooh, good one. Maybe I talked to Raiders writer to Sean Reed about the AFC West. He said Devontae Adams is going to be available. Maybe they make a move for him. I don't know if they will need to, though. I really like Khalil Shakir. I really like Keon Coleman. I think they've got enough. I'm a
I
huge
think it's
Don
fragile.
Guy.
I think it's too fragile, man.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions there too. But Josh Allen's the best quarterback outside of Patrick Mahomes to me. I am taking the guy that's the second best quarterback in the NFL over a skeptical Aaron Rodgers staying healthy scenario and a Tua Tagovailoa that I just do not like. So that's how I look at this. Buffalo Bills win that one. Okay, move on. You have the Dolphins, sorry, as well. AFC West. Do we have to spend a lot of time on this one?
No.
Yeah, it's the Kansas City Chiefs. I
hate every other team in this division.
Okay, I have the LA Chargers making the playoffs. That was kind of one of my sneaky takes as well. I think they're a fun team this year. Thomas, when you're done this podcast, go look at their division. Or go look at their schedule, sorry. It's disgusting. They play the easiest set of opposing quarterbacks in the NFL by a wide margin. Jim Harbaugh is so successful as a head coach. He's got like a 650-plus winning percentage. He wins wherever he goes. I think Jesse Minter as a defensive coordinator is an underrated hire that no one really talks about. I think the Chargers sneak in with the 7th seed.
I just have this rule about the offseason that I can't get bought into the Chargers because it just never works.
Yeah, I've been there before. I've been on this Chargers hype, but I have to take the 7th seed. It's not like I think they're going to be world beaters. Like, I think they're the way you have to look at it, right? There's so much parity every year in the NFL. Like at least 5 new teams make the playoffs every season, so you kind of have to get a little greasy with some predictions before the year. So that was kind of one of my greasier predictions. All right, AFC North.
AFC North, Ravens.
Yeah, I have the Ravens as well. I think people are underrating Lamar Jackson again, just because of that playoff performance. I think that offense is going to be better than it was last season. The defense might take a little bit of a step back. It's hard not to. They were like the best DVOA defense almost in history last season, but I really think that offense is going to excel to new heights this year. I also have the Bengals making the playoffs from that division. I had the Steelers and the Browns missing out. I think Deshaun Watson era in Cleveland's coming to an end, and he's the guy I'm rooting against the most, sorry, out of any player in football. AFC South, fun division, fun sneaky division.
A really fun division for once. So with AFC South, I heard the Ringer Fantasy Football podcast today, and they actually had a pretty good point about the Texans. Like, everyone's buying the Texans right now. Obviously, you see CJ Stroud, really good player. They have a bunch of great guys playing there, but they listed the quarterbacks they played last year to make the playoffs, and then the quarterbacks they're going to play this year. Like, their schedule is brutal compared to last year, and I like the setup. I like the coach, I like the quarterback. I don't like what they're going to be facing this year compared to last year. So I don't think it's a given. Like, I don't think it's going to be as easily handled for the Texans as once were. I think the Jaguars are probably going to be right there, just simply because they were abnormally unlucky in terms of like drop touchdowns and drop big plays last year, and I just think they have a higher ceiling than what they performed last year. So I think the Jaguars are going to be right there. I think I'm still going to be picking the Texans, but it's really it's marginally over the Jaguars.
We're on the same page here. I had the Texans winning the division at 10-7, fourth in the AFC. I think the Jaguars get in the playoffs as well at the 6th seed. I think this is a battle between those two teams. The Jaguars were 8-3 last season. Like, everyone forgets how much of a collapse it was for them not to make the playoffs. I think they learned from some of their mistakes. I think Trevor Lawrence is very good, and I think people are still underrating him. I think people are way too hyped up on kind of his interception totals. He had the most EPA lost out of any quarterback in the NFL last season by a wide margin, from wide receiver drops, receiver errors, stuff like that. I think that takes a step up. I love Brian Thomas Jr. I think he's going to excel in that offense. So I'm 100% with you on this one. I think the Texans also are getting a little too overrated, but I do think they ultimately win that division. Okay, AFC Championship game. Thomas, who are the two teams you got?
I have no idea. I'm going to Ravens Chiefs, because why not?
Ravens Chiefs. I had.
What do you think?
I'm trying to. This is bad podcasting. I'm trying to bring up my Excel spreadsheet. We did our season predictions for the score. They're getting published. I think I had Ravens Bills or Chiefs Bills. I can't remember which one I had.
Okay.
So that would be mine. NFC predictions.
NFC. So I want to say Packers Lions, but is that mathematically possible?
Yeah,
it should be, right?
Yeah, for sure. Like, Packers win the division, Lions get the 5 seed. They can meet in the playoffs. Sorry.
Yeah, but I think they're going to be I want to pick them for the NFC Conference Championship, but otherwise I think that one of them are going to be beating out the other to get to the NFC Conference Championship game.
So you don't have the Eagles in the NFC Championship game?
No, I don't.
Interesting, Thomas. Interesting. I have the Eagles and the Packers. I actually have our matchup on Friday night.
Oh, wow. You have the opening as well. Yeah. Okay.
So those are my two
That's
teams.
Interesting.
Who wins those games that you got? Who's your Super Bowl matchup?
It'd probably be the same old boring Chiefs. God, I really want to watch someone else this year. Who wins? Lions, Packers. I want to go with the better quarterback. I want to say Jordan Love.
Nice. I have the Packers beating the Eagles in the NFC Championship game. Yeah, so it was actually, I have the Bills beating the Chiefs. That was my AFC Championship preview. Our prediction. I have that up here. I have the Buffalo Bills defeating the Green Bay Packers in the Super Bowl. I think Josh Allen raises it this year. I think this is his year. I have a winning MVP. I think this is going to be the best version we see of him. I think people are severely underrating the Bills. They were
it's going to be couple addition by subtraction.
Yeah,
getting rid of Stephon Diggs, and then they're good.
But I think it can work for them. Like, Stephon Diggs was not a big part of that offense last year. I think the defense is really good. I think Sean McDermott's a really good defensive coach. I think another year under Joe Brady and that offense is going to work. I think this is the Bills.
I don't know, man.
I'm out on a limb here. Like a lot of people have it. I'm
Keon
getting bold.
Coleman, Khalil Shakir, Mac Hollins, Curtis Samuel.
Dalton Kincaid. That's a beautiful list of names you just mentioned. There,
No,
Thomas.
it's not. No, the wide receiver list of names is really not great.
Well, I am already too deep. I've already made that.
You're
prediction.
banking on Keon Coleman, and if he isn't good, you're left with Khalil Shakir or Shakira or what is?
It's Khalil Shakir. I think he was really efficient for them. I don't know. Anyways, did you make a Super Bowl? Did you make a Super Bowl pick? Do you have the Packers against the Chiefs?
Yeah, I want to go with the Packers as well. Then
Cool. Yeah, I
like the Packers. I think they're great. I think Packers and Cardinals are going to be my pet teams this year, aside from Week 1.
Yeah, the Packers are going to be extremely fun to watch, and we get to see them, of course, on Friday night. Eagles fans, thanks so much for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Make sure to follow Thomas and I on Twitter. Like I said at the top, make sure to hit the like button on this video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel wherever you listen to your podcasts. There it is. Get that subscribe voice in there. And Thomas and I will be back at some point next week, and we will talk to you later.